welcome back. Today's video is for Scrap and Stamp Canada. I will leave the link below for you to check out the coordinating blog and links to the products I will be using. I thought I would talk about a technique that I use to create scene cards. Scene cards can be very difficult for some people to achieve and create. Well, my trick is one that you might remember from grade school, but really is a helpful tool to create scenes for your cards. It's the 5 W's. It's not brain science, but it really works. So let's talk about the who, what, when, where, why, and the how of building a scene. We're also going to talk a little bit later about foreground and background. So let's get started by looking at this card that I have here. Now this is a card that I created last year, but it's a great way to get started to show you what I mean about the 5 W's in creating a scene. So our who in this particular card is our little owls. They are my who. So who do you want to showcase in your card? And maybe it's a what for you. Okay. So who in my card is these little 2 owls. What? Well, what are they doing? In this card, my one little owl is sledding. The other one is just trying to stay warm, I think. So what is the focal image of your card? Is it maybe what the characters are doing? Or maybe is it your sentiment? In this particular sentiment, it says happy freezing season. So what is my card about? Well, it's the freezing season. What are my characters doing? Well, one is sledding and one is trying to stay warm. Okay, so we've covered our who and what in terms of our scene. The next thing we want to talk about is when. When is it? Well, in this particular card, we can see that it's wintertime or Christmas, or perhaps it's daytime or nighttime. This card, it kind of looks like it's, almost dusk. So these are kind of key things to think about when we're building our scenes for our cards. So we've covered who, what, when, where. The next thing we want to talk about is why. What's the purpose of your card? Is it clear? Why are you making this card? Well, this particular card I'm making is obviously for the winter season, or it can be for a birthday card, or just because. That's a why, right? So we want to think about all these things when we are making our card. Why are we doing this? What particular image do we want to be in the foreground and background? And I'll get in touch with that in just a bit here. The next thing is how. How do you want to create the scene? Is there a particular technique that you want to use? Do you want your card to be interactive? Is it just going to be a one-layer card? Popped up? Is there something special about it? Like, are you using Copics? How are you going to create the image of your scene? In this one, my how was a couple different techniques. I popped my images up. I did some masking as well as some ink blending. I also did some layering in terms of some pattern paper underneath, and I used a stitch die cut. So these are things that you want to pull out and get together before you start making your scene card. It'll help you in the long run. The next thing I want to talk about is foreground and background. What does that mean? Well, when we're talking about scenes, we want our scenes to have depth and dimension. So in the foreground, what is your focal? Is it going to be these little characters here? Or is your focal point in the foreground going to perhaps be your sentiment? In this particular image, the foreground is obviously my little characters. Now my background is obviously the hill, the trees, our sky, and you can see that I have my sentiment in the background. So it's not the first thing you actually see when you look at this card. For me, the first thing I obviously focus on is my little images that are popped up, okay? So let's run this through again, but with a different card. Okay, so here's another card I created a while ago. My kids have been playing with it. It used to light up, but let's talk about our 5 W's here. So who? Again, you can actually go broad with this. You can say, who is this card for? In this instance, my who it wasn't for anybody in particular, but who are my little characters going to be? Well, I have this little fox, a bear, and some lightning bugs. The next thing we want to talk about is what. So what is the focus of this? What are the characters doing? My what is the characters are outside playing, and my little fox is trying to catch the lightning bug while this little bear watches. Where? Where is this scene taking place? Well, you can see it's taking place outside. When? When is it taking place? Well, again, I've got a night sky, and these little lightning bugs are supposed to light up, so it's obviously at night. Why? What's the purpose of this card? Well, it says, hope your day glows with happiness. So I was kind of thinking I could use this for a birthday card. So we've covered our who, what, when, where, why. The next thing we want to talk about is how. How are we going to create this card? So my how is actually pretty in depth with this one. I used a couple different techniques. I did some die cutting with the images. I die cut the grass. I also did some ink blending in the background for my how. How am I going to create it? And I also wanted the lightning bugs to light up. So I used Chibitronics on this particular one. So when you're going to create a card, it's a great idea for you to sit down and list out your who, what, when, where, why, how, and then what you want in the foreground, which is our little images here in the grass, and what you want in the background. In terms of this card, it's the night sky that's in the background. You can see the sentiment here is in the foreground. Okay, so those are some techniques that I like to use to create my scenes. Now that we've got our little teaching session out of the way, let's get started and create a card together. Okay, so before we get started, I do want to talk about some of the products that I'm going to be using. Again, I'll link these down below. And what I have here is, this is the Snow Much Fun stamp set from Lawn Fawn. I also have the coordinating dies that I've already gotten ready and taken apart. I also have this coordinating waving pull tab starter set. Now they call it a starter set because they're going to be releasing a whole bunch of new stamps that will work with this. So this is going to be a really great asset to have, and there'll be a lot more stamp sets like this coming out that you can use along with this pull tab set. Now I do want to talk about one particular part of this set that's really important that you don't want to lose. Now you probably can't see it very well, but I'll pull it off here. And what this is a little template to help you when you are lining up this particular piece here. This is the little tab that you will use to grab the little pull slide. And then the next thing I want to talk about is actually in this die cut set. It's a little square piece. I must have it out already, but it actually fits into here, and it'll cut the two little holes that this will go together in. I'll show you all that in a minute, but I just wanted to let you know that this piece is incredibly important, so don't throw it out. All right, so let's see. I have some cardstock here. This one in particular is 5.5 inches by 4 1/4, and it has a sheen to it, a little glimmer sheen. And I think this is, unfortunately I don't have the package, but I think this is actually the Lawn Fawn one, and I'll link that again down below, so check for that. And then I have my little images that I've already die cut and colored out just to help this process go a little quicker. And so my who is going to be these two little characters. I'm going to call this Papa Bear and Baby Bear. So my who are Papa and Baby Bear. The next thing I want to talk about is what. What are they going to be doing? Well, in this particular stamp set, we can make little snow angels. So that's going to be my what. Also my what is going to be what is happening and what is this card going to be about? Well, this card is also going to be a bit of an interactive. So I have a white piece of cardstock here, and this is going to actually layer over top. Now I'm doing a whole bunch of elements with this one, so stick with me. Okay, so my who is my little bears, and they are going to be positioned. This cardstock is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches because I want them to layer over top of each other. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the coordinating dies for these two bears, and there's two sets, and I'm actually going to be using both of them. Okay, so one is this little, the angel portion of it, because when he moves his arms up and down, he's going to create a little snow angel. And the other portion is the bear itself that you die cut. Okay, now I need to use these in order for this to work out. Now, stick with me, hopefully this works. How I want this to go about is my who's are going to be this bear. Now I need him to be kind of straight up and down in order for my pull tab to work, because I want my pull tab to be on this side. My other little guy, I want him to be over here, and he's going to be on his own doing his own little snow angel. So I need to line these up and make sure that they're layered kind of even on every side. And now what I need to do is think about my sentiment. Now I want my sentiment to kind of be here. I'll leave a space there for that, and it's going to be in the foreground. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is what I want to do first is actually my pull tab. This is a bit tricky because I have to cut through 2 of these layers. I want both these layers to be cut through with the notch so that I can pull the little arms up and down. So I'm going to line this up right above my bear's head. Move my bear over. I want to make sure I'm leaving enough room because this is where I'm going to have this little hollow. So I want my little bear to actually be set back. He's going to kind of be in the background. The foreground is going to be the snow and my sentiment. And I have to have him straight up and down in order for the pull tab to work. So I need to bring out my little gauge because this will also help me where I need to put my bear. So this is where the arms are going to be for the bear. So we'll kind of line this up where my bear is going to be about there. Okay, make sure I'm still even on all these sides. This is the tricky part. And that looks about good. I think I want to take some of this purple tape and let's just secure this down so nothing moves on me. Okay, so we've got this now down, and now I'm going to tape my little notch down, and then I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. Now again, I want to cut through both these pieces, okay? So we'll just take this little bear and our guide away, and I'll go ahead and run that through my die cutting machine. Okay, so I have finished running that through my die cut machine, and I'll gently peel up the tape and the die cut. And then you can see that the notch goes through both pieces, okay? So that's super important so it lines up all nicely. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to take these 2 pieces apart, and I want to create the little notch underneath here where the arms are going to move up and down through. Okay, so I'm going to actually put this back on here. I am going to take our little guide, line it up like that. And then you can see this little piece that has the 2 notches in it. It is going to just slide right in here. Okay? But I'm thinking what it might be easier to do, now that I have that little guide there, I'll kind of put this back up. And that'll help me feel right there where I need to actually put my other die here. I want to make sure it's all straight up and down. And that lines up. Feel like it's off just a bit. Let's see. Feel it there. So maybe what I'll do is trying to think of the best way to do this. Let me just stop for a second and think this out. Okay, I've got it figured out now. I just wasn't thinking clearly there for a second. So I actually want to keep these pieces together and line them back up. And then I'm going to use this, put this back on here. And you can tell it's in, it slides nicely back into those little grooves it created. I'm going to put my little template here, like so, which means this little piece with the notches where the arms fit through is going to slide in the bottom here. Now I want to make sure it's straight. This. How is that? Looks like I shifted a bit. Let's try and get this nice and straight. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this larger die cut and line it up so that it will fit where those little notches are going to be. I know exactly where it's going to be. I want to cut this out first because I don't want to cut the notches in the white. I want to cut it on the sparkle paper. Okay, so I'll grab some of this purple tape again just to keep that die in place. And then I'm going to put my other little guy right over here, and I'll put him on an angle, leaving enough room for my sentiment. All right, I'm just going to go run this through my die cut machine and I'll be right back. Okay, so I did decide at the last minute I did want to keep the two pieces together and just die cut them through both pieces, and that was just to be sure that everything lined up perfectly. I didn't want to die cut and then have something not line up properly. So I did run those both through, and you can see it cut out that little piece from the silver, and then I'm going to have this little piece here from the white. We'll just carefully remove this. Okay, I can take that off, and then we'll take this piece off. And so now what this will allow us to do, get this off here, is to stamp the little stamps here down perfectly onto there. I'll show you that in just a second here. We'll get this all cleaned up. I'm going to carefully remove my tape. All right. So again, these little notches are super important because this is where our little arms are going to fit through for our card. And so I've gone ahead and I've die cut those out as well, and we'll talk about those in just a minute, but those will slide through there. Okay, so the next step that we want to do is put these little images back in with the shimmer cardstock. Move that. And I want to stamp down on them. And I'm going to use my Hampton Arts Stamp Perfect to do this. It'll help me get a good impression and make sure everything is lined up perfectly. Okay, lay that down. I'll put that there. And I have this big one. So this is going to look like the grooves in the snow. And we'll lay this over top. Just like that. And we'll do the same thing with a smaller one. Okay. Yep. And now I can just go ahead and stamp that down. Close the lid. Now the color of ink that I've chose to do the little grooves or the stamp in is going to be, I think, the Hickory Smoke from Tim Holtz Distress Inks. We'll ink that up. And the nice thing is if I need to double stamp, I can do that and not worry about the images moving. Now I think what I'll do is I'm actually going to flip this over this way, and I'm actually going to put some of this purple tape on the back just to make sure it doesn't move around on me. Like that. Just to hold this little insert in place. And like that. Flip it back over, and then they won't stick to the stamp when I stamp the image down. Okay, it doesn't bother me. It's a little off, but that's okay. That'll be fine. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is put that aside, and I'm going to take our front piece. Okay, so this is the piece that's going to layer over top. I'll tell you a little bit more of what my vision for this card is. I want it to be an interactive shaker card. So what I need to do is I need to put some acetate on this piece here, and it's going to be set up. Our characters are going to be underneath so that I can use the pull tab to make the bear's arms move up and down, but it can also be shaken and to see some glittery snow move about as well. All right, it's a pretty big endeavor, but I think we can do it. I'm going to set this aside because I need to make sure that I get everything stamped down on the front of this before I start assembling the card. I won't be able to stamp my sentiment and anything else on here if it's layered on, because we're going to have that bulky foam tape. All right, so the next thing I want to do is think about my sentiment. And the sentiment that I'm going to use is "Snow Much Fun." So I've got my snow. I want to layer that about here. And then I have much and fun already pulled out. I want to do the snow in I think let's do it in the faded jeans. I want that to be blue. And I'll do the much fun in just some VersaFine Clair ink, because that's my favorite black sentiment ink. So let's do our snow first. I'm going to remove our little outlines. I'm going to give my lid just a quick wipe to make sure there's no excess ink. And we'll close the lid on that snow. Again, using the Stamp Perfect will allow me to get a perfect sentiment stamp if I have to stamp it a couple times in this faded jeans. There, and you can see it's not a great impression, so I want to do that again. I want to make sure it's nice and dark and crisp looking. So I'll just do that. So, and I think I'll do it one more time. Why not? Get it looking really nice. There we go. I'm happy with that. So I can remove the snow, and now I'm going to put in Much Fun. I think I'll have it off-center just a little bit. Snow Much Fun. That looks fairly straight. Again, I'm going to use my favorite VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. I love this. It always stamps beautifully. And I love that they have the exclamation point attached to the fun. I know there's some stamp sets where the exclamation point is a separate little tiny stamp, and I can never get it to stick. I find it so frustrating. So I'm glad that they actually attached it to the word fun. Alright, so we have this part. This is our top layer, Snow Much Fun. And I do want to add a few little snowflakes on here. And to do that, I'm just going to use my little block. These little blocks are really great to have when you're doing just single images. And I want to use some broken china and some stormy sky for that, just to give a couple different blues. And I attach the smaller one on one side, and the larger one is on the other side of the acrylic block. And now what I'll do is just go ahead and stamp a few of these down. Okay, so I have all the little snowflakes stamped on my front panel. I think that looks good. And the next thing I want to do is remember that this is a shaker card, so I have to put some acetate behind these two cutouts. Now, the other thing I need to do actually is I need to use the other little bear die cuts for this because I need their heads in there. So let me grab those dies and I'll be right back. Got this part, and that would just about have been good. Otherwise, our little bear's heads would have been cut off because they're going to be underneath, and part of their head would have been cut off. So I want an idea of where my little bear sits and how his arms are going to go up and down. And I'm going to bring in this piece again just so I get an idea of where the sliding mechanism is going to move. Okay, so I can see it kind of there. I'm going to put my bear about here. Just line the die cut right over top. And you can feel it kind of click into place. And then I'm going to take a piece of purple tape, adhere that die down just on the top. That way I can slide my little bear out. Okay. Again, I'm only going to be cutting this time on this top piece. I don't want to cut the silver piece in behind. Do the same thing with my little bear over here. Get him lined up. Wiggle the die into place over top of the previously cut bear. Lift it up. And let's grab my tweezers here. It'll be a little easier. And pull them out. Oops. Try that again. I think I can just eyeball it from here. Okay. So we're just going to now take this white piece and I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. I'll be right back. Okay, that die cut beautifully. If you're wondering, I'm using the Gemini Junior electronic die cutting machine. It's fantastic. So then I can just peel this off again very gently, making sure none of my cardstock tears. And there you can see we have the little outline of the ears. Okay, all right. So now what we want to talk about, so glad I remember that part, is getting the acetate behind here. Now you can just use regular acetate and maybe just some score tape if that works for you. I actually have a whole bunch of these like little windows. I got them on clearance and I thought I would use these because they're already adhesive. They're meant for little treat boxes, so there's a smaller size and then a larger size. And where they come, one side has a large and then the other side has a little smaller square. I'm just going to use these up because I don't really have any plans to be making treat boxes anytime soon. So we'll start with the smaller one. It's already got the adhesive on there for me. And I'm going to turn my panel over. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to get the stamping done as well, to show you that I'm going to turn it over to the back side and just place this little window down. Give it a little push. And there, we've got the little window on this side. Turn it around. I'm going to use this bigger one for the Papa Bear, because it's Papa and Baby Bear playing out in the snow. Now it's a little too big. I'm going to have it showing over here, so I'll just trim it down. I'm going to use my Tim Holtz Tonic Studio scissors. I like these, they're nice and sharp. And I'll line this up. Might have to cut a little bit off the top as well. Should be okay. All right, I'm just going to cut a little bit off the side. Like this. That looks about good. And I'm going to peel this back. I'll have to add some of this score tape onto here because I cut the adhesive off the one end. And just line it up quickly like this. And I can just tear it with my fingers. Ooh. I'm going to seal this back up so I don't get stuck to everything. I'll burnish this down with my finger and release the backing. I find this is always the toughest part for me, trying to get the backing off. There we go, that worked well. And now we simply just adhere this down. Oop. Might be showing just a little bit. Have to move it over just a titch. Oh, don't tear. I didn't burnish it down too much. Oh dear. Let's see if I can just... Oh, I always end up mucking something up. Never fails. That's okay. You know, this is how we learn. We make mistakes and we learn. Got all excited there and didn't measure properly. Good thing I'm not drinking this time. One of my cards that I made, a shaker card for one of the blog hops, I made the mistake of having the drink that I was featuring in it while I was making the card, and I had glitter everywhere. All right, I'm going to move that over just a titch more. Thank goodness it's on the back. No one will know that we ripped it. There, that's better. See? No one will ever know. Good as new. All right, so now that I have my acetate down, the next thing I want to do is get our slider mechanism ready. Okay. So we have these. I've just taped them down on the back with our purple tape. And I've already pre-cut our slider mechanism. And it's really hard to see, but on the die cut itself, there's a little kind of ridge and an embossed line. And that tells us where to line things up when it comes to this stationary piece, the support piece that makes it so it doesn't go back and forth all wonky. And then on our little arms, when I die cut the arms, there is a little X that gets cut as well in the arms. Okay, so I've gone ahead and colored these, stamped and colored them, and there's the hole. There's also this little X. Now that little X is to tell you that it needs to be on the top. Okay, so it lines up, the X is on top and the holes together. And if I remember how to do this right, we're going to get our little brad. I have this very, very tiny brad that I had that I seem to have lost. Is that, oh, there it is, right in front of me. Okay, so take your pole piece, put your tiny brad through the back. So it's going to be the flat piece, like that, and then this is going to go like this on your card. Oop. Okay, so we have the pointy piece up. We're going to feed our little arms through there. Remember, the X goes on the top, X to the top, and then we can flatten the brad out. All right, the next thing we need to do is this will feed through these little slots. This. And like this. And then you can see these little arms will move up and down. Okay, so that's a very rough way to see how this is going to work. The other thing I want to be cognizant about is this pull tab usually kind of goes this way in a card, right? So your card is this way, but because I've oriented my landscape, it goes the other way, and I might have to trim off some of this on the bottom because you want this to sit flush with your card like that. Okay, see how it's sitting flush? So I want to just trim a little bit off the bottom here so it doesn't stick out. There, just like that. Okay, so now that we have this, I need to work on this piece. Again, there's little score lines that get pushed into there when we die cut it, and that just helps us to know where we're folding it. Okay, and I'm going to take and wrap this around this piece, like this, and it lines up nicely. And I'll just get a little bit of glue. We'll use some of our Gina K Connect glue. I really like this glue. It's a nice strong adhesive. Ooh. Put a little dab there, a little dab will do. Make sure that we're not gluing it down to our piece. It's the last thing we want to do. I think I'll just use some tape runner. That might be easier, less messy. Now I got glue everywhere. See, this is why I don't usually do this format of video, because I'm so messy when I craft. Not good. Like that. Okay, flip it over. Oh, it's okay, that won't show. And his little arms move up and down. Oh, so cute. But we need to secure this down. So I'm going to use a little bit of my tape runner again on the back side. Okay, so I put some tape runner on here. Fold it over, line everything back up. Make sure it's flush to the top. And press it down. And it moves freely, so that makes me happy. And then I'm going to put there's a little tab cover that will go on here as well. But I'll do that at the end. All right, now what I want to do is I have our card base here, and I just used some white cardstock. And I want to adhere this down, making sure that I'm not getting this piece here stuck with any liner or any glue or anything like that, any runner. Okay, so just going along. This is not a very good tape runner. I need to get a better one. And this guy, I can just put a little bit of runner on the back of it. Again, not getting any tape runner on here because that needs to move up and down. Oh, this is the worst tape runner. Need my big mama. Bring out big mama. She never lets me down. A little bit of tape runner on here and here. Okay, and then now we can put this down on our card base. Are you still with me up to this point? All right, I'm going to stick this down and I'll be right back. Okay, I had to get my head right over top and I didn't want it to be in the way. So I've got that adhered down to our card base, and you can see that it moves up and down nicely. All right, the next thing we want to do is get our next layer ready. And this is where we're going to have our little bears underneath, and it's going to become the shaker card. So I want to adhere my little bear down. Now the tricky part is I want to adhere it so that the arms can still move up and down. All right, so I got to line him up and make sure that his little arms still move up and down. Just going to use my tape runner for this. And I'll put a little bit here, just along here. Again, I don't want to put any glue here. That's why I didn't put the actual adhesive on my bear, because I didn't want it to stick to the arms. So I put it on the card base itself, and then I'll line the little bear up from there. And I think what I want to do is use this as a guide to where I'm going to lay him. Just so I get him glued down in the proper position. Step a bit. Not going to push him down. I want to make sure that he's going to be in the right position for this. So he's too high. Bring him down a little bit. All right, I'm gonna get right over top of this and I'll come back once I've got them pushed down and lined up. Okay, again, I had to get my head right over top so that I could see that. I didn't think you wanted to see my messy hair. So what we have here is both our little bears lined up and glued down. And then now this will go over top and we'll put our glitter in. So how we're going to do that is, let's put this aside. We need some nice thick foam tape here. And I should have some in my stash. I seem to be missing it. I'm going to be right back. Okay, does that happen to you guys too? The last place that you remember seeing it, it wasn't there. I like to blame my kids, but it was actually probably me this time, so I won't blame them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double layer this foam tape. And I want to go around the edges, so I might actually have to cut it in half, but let's just take some and fold it over on itself so that we have the double layer already. Let's see, let's go from here. Try and make sure that it lines up nicely on the edges. All right, we'll trim that off. And then I'm going to trim this down the middle. What I like about these tonic scissors is they don't, like, the adhesive doesn't stick to them. My other pair, if I try to cut any adhesive with it, it sticks to the scissors, and that's so frustrating. Okay, I just want to release one side of the tape. Otherwise, when I go to put my glitter on, it's going to stick everywhere. We don't want that. So I'm going to go along the edge with the foam tape. Just to make sure it's sealed on the edges. Like so. Just rip that off. And this one, I want to make sure it's nice and tight to the other piece of tape because we don't want the glitter falling out. I'll use this to cut. There we go. And again, we'll do this side, and we want to make sure that the tape isn't going to show from the other side. Go here. Nice and close to the edge. Quick snip. And let's do, I want to make sure that it's popped up nicely right on all the edges, and then I'll go in and seal the area of the bears with some more. So I'll be right back once I get this done. Okay, so I finished putting the foam tape all the way around so that I can seal in the glitter. And I also have die cut the little pull tab cover with the arrow just out of some blue cardstock that I had on hand. All right, the next thing we want to do is we want to add some little glitter, snow elements in here. I just have this Martha Stewart's craft coarse glitter that I'm going to use. I think it'll be fine. Use my little scoop here. I'm going to try and keep it contained on the bear tummy just for this little bit until I get the top put on. Whoops, of course I spilt all over. That's all right. Everybody loves glitter. All right, let's see how this, I feel like the bigger guy needs a little bit more. You can never have too much glitter, can you? I don't think so. Okay, so now what we're going to do is remove the backing tape from our foam tape here. I think I want to use my handy dandy little tonic Steedo's craft pick just because I find it easier to remove the backing this way. So I have a ton of tape on here. It's going to give the card some security so that it doesn't bow in any areas. And Let's get this peeled off. Now the one thing we want to also be careful and be cognizant about is there's going to be some static going on. So when I go to lay this down on top of the card, some of that glitter could very well react with the acetate and the static that's between the two and could cling up and actually get stuck onto our foam tape, the adhesive on our foam tape. So you want to be careful about that. Now typically what I would do is I would fill these little wells that I've created with my glitter and then put the card backing on, but because it's so important on how this lines up, I can't do it that way. If it was just like a whole square, I wouldn't worry about it. I would just put the glitter in the well portion and then adhere it down, but again, we want to be very careful that our die cut portion is really matching up and lining up with our little images underneath, so we'll have to do it this way. All right, I've got just a couple more to go here, pulling the backing off. And I know this is definitely a different format than I usually do my videos. I usually do the videos and then I'll do my voiceovers after. So I'm really curious to know what you guys think of this format. Leave your comments down below. Do you like a more refined video, like how I usually do the video first and then the voiceover after? Or do you like kind of following along with me on the process and being able to see all my mistakes in real time? I'd be interested to know, so make sure you leave that comment below. All right, here is the moment of truth. Looks like I have just a little bit of adhesive hanging over the top here, and I want to trim that off. Okay, so I always like to do it this way, very carefully so I don't spill my glitter. All right, put it on like that. Hopefully my head doesn't get in the way because I didn't do my hair today. It's a hot mess. And I'm going to very carefully line up with our image here. And I can see some of the glitter is already kind of reacting. Oh, let's hope this works. Lining it up as straight as possible. Push it down. Whew, I think we did it. All right. I'm just going to give it a good shake. Get some of that glitter moving around. Give it a tap. All right. So that pretty much finishes our card. Now I do have a little bits of tearing from my paper, from the score tape. I should have actually put it on my hand first and then pulled it away, but that's okay. I really like how this card turned out. It's super cute. You can see how the dimension that I got with having the images sit down from the top layer, so that if the foreground is up a bit, it looks like the bears are actually sunk down into the snow. I like the glitter element. It makes it look more realistic. And then we have this interactive element to our card where we can actually see Papa Bear do his snow angel. And you know what? You know what I forgot, you guys? I colored a little scarf for Papa Bear. And I forgot to put it on him. So it just goes to show you this is what happens when I make cards live like this on the go. So I think, yeah, it would have been a lot nicer if I would have had his little scarf on there. I think that would have looked much better and would have hid his little arms, little mechanism better. I don't know, maybe I'll see. I don't know if I can try and pull it off or not, pull it up. You'll find out in the pictures when I do the pictures later whether or not I got that to work, but I think that's super cute. So much fun. It really is so much fun. And we have the little baby bear with his Papa Bear playing out in the first snowfall. And boy, have we had a lot of snow here in Calgary over the last couple days. Early snow too for us. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I'll have some pictures of the finished card at the end. Again, everything's going to be linked below over at the Scrap and Stamp blog on the supplies I used. And I'd love to hear your comments and what you thought of this style of video as opposed to what I usually do. I know it's a little longer than what I do, but all right, here's the pictures of the finished product, and thanks for joining me. Remember, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any other videos. Thanks so much, guys, and have a great day.